So today we're going to cover Daf Yud Zayin, page 17. We just start with the very bottom of page Tet Zayin Amud Bet. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, Arba'a dvarim HaKadosh Baruch Hu son'an ve'ani ani ohabam. The great Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, not long ago we talked about Lag BaOmer and his greatness and his son Elazar. So he said that there are four type of people that Hashem, that God, he used the word here son'an. Son'an, it's a strong word, it's like God despised. Va'ani, meaning Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, his great rabbi, he said, I don't like them. And now he gives the example. Again, the rabbis dealt with the idea that he attributed to Hashem they been despised, and for himself he said, I don't like them. Number one, hanichnas leveito pitom, ve'in tzarich lomar leveit chavero. Here he put it in the opposite way. Unlike Ben Sira, we mentioned earlier, the Gemara mentioned earlier, this one goes the opposite. He said, first is someone who walk in the house without notice. So it's obvious. You can have the children or the wife, the family members, and the person walk in, especially if it wasn't a great day at work or whatever it is, it can create bad experiences. Can go even further to say that it can be a traumatized experiences, because beside of being shocked, it can be some type of trauma. And he put a kal vachomer ve'ein tzarich lomar, and let's go without saying that if you go to your friend's house. Here it's less common, but when we used to live in Harnof in Yerushalayim, so the whole building was a field of children, Kenai Nahar. So many times I used to come home and see in my dining room, in the apartment, there is like 20 kids. From the whole building play with my kids. So in Israeli culture it's relatively more common, especially with big residential building, that people go to the neighbors easily. In my apartment is the exceptions. So several times I walk in and the door was open. The neighbor opened the refrigerator and pick up eggs or something or sugar, because that was the relationships. But anyway, so here they said that even if it's your close friend, you cannot walk in just like that. You have to do it without sudden. You have to knock the door, ring the bell, etc. But here they teach us something deeper than just manners. It's go much deeper, and you see soon how. V'ha'ochez ba'ama u'mashtin mayim. We just discussed yesterday the idea that one who grasps his organ and passing water, which creates unnecessary body reaction. U'mashtin mayim arum lifnei mitato. So the idea is that he passes water while naked. It's considering a vulgar. There is a Gemara in Shabbat, in Bet 62, that speaks about the idea that it's a disgusting place. It's very inappropriate place, and the person does that. Basically, the whole area has this bad odor and bad feeling. So, for example, if they are in a field, you need to go a distance from the camp or whatever they're camping in order to do it. You don't do it close to the place that people sleep, etc. It's considering a vulgar. V'amshamesh mitato b'fnei kol chai. One who prohibits in presence of living creatures. So now the Gemara want to elaborate on that. Omar le Rav Yehuda le Shmuel. He asked him a question. Va'afilu lifnei achbarim. Imagine if someone live in a house that there are mice going around, right? In our, fastidious society, it's less common, but in some culture and society or poverty-stricken people, it happens that there are mice going around their homes. But it's not necessarily mice in that sense. The people
pets.
carry pets,
Right.
etc.
Yeah, pets.
So he, meaning Rav Yehuda, asked Shmuel. Shmuel was a great rabbi. He said to him, "Does that apply even for the mice?" By the way, just important to know, Gadol Meraban Shmo, which means in the Talmud, just in general term, when they don't use a name, in other words, addition to a name before his name, it shows the highest greatness. In other words, there is a Rebbe, etc. But when you use just the name Shmuel,
Right.
it shows greatness. So here, Rav Yehuda asked Shmuel, Amar lei. So Shmuel responded and said, Shinana. Shinana is a expression to brightness. Bright person, smart, shrewd, תלמיד חכם. לא, אלא כגון של בית פלוני שמשמשים מיטותיהם בפני עבדיהם ושפתחותיהם. This is like a minag. It's like those use the idea of Ploni, remember in the Book of Ruth, Ploni Almoni, it's like so and so. So like a certain prominent family, and for sure the Gemara is not speaking here Lashon Hara, so they don't give the exact name.
Right.
That they are doing it the front of their Canaanite slaves and slave women. For sure, it's obvious that it's a very incongruous. It's inappropriate to do it at the front of their servants. So then the Gemara inquire, Ve'inehu mai darush, and those in that household, what verse do they expose and justify to their conduct? Which means, where do you find a source in the Torah that allow a person to do such a thing? The fact that you have a maid in your house, I was several years ago guest by the chief rabbi of Mexico City, Rabino Tavatznik, so many years ago. So I remember they have in their big mansion of the rabbi's house, they have a separate section for the maids who come from all kind of places, Mexico City, who knows, Colombia. But the thing is, they treated the maid with royalty. At least the rabbi's house, the way I see it. You must probably remember it from South Africa, right? So that's the fact that you have a maid in your house or servants doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want, at least by the Torah law.
Right.
There are certain proper way of conduct. So he said, those who do such a thing, how do they justify such a behavior? Right. So he brings a sword, and he said, in Bereshit, in Genesis, we read in the Parashat HaAkedah, in the famous portion of the binding of Isaac that we said every single day. So Abraham said to his servant, and according to the Midrashim, it was Eliezer. So Abraham said to Eliezer, Shvu lachem po im hachamor. He said to his servant when he was about to bind Isaac, he said to him, stay here by yourselves with the donkey. So when Abraham said to his servant Eliezer, stay here by yourself with a donkey, what exactly it means? So it can be, at least ostensibly speaking, can be interpreted to mean Am Hadome Lachamor, which means that it's the thought, the assumption that since Abraham used for his servant that terminology, that they are like, in a sense, slaves constitute people that are similar to a donkey in terms of their legal status. All right? Because why Abraham needs to use that ima chamor. Why it's necessary to say that you should stay here with the donkey. Can you say you should stay here, and I'm going up to the Mount Moriah? Why you need to say to his servant, you stay here with the donkey? So it's like, in a way, it's a superfluous words with the donkey.
Well, or implying to take. I mean, someone's got to watch over the donkey while he was gone.
But that's obvious. Yes.
Yeah.
So Rashi, right there in the Targum, Yonatan explains that it's not the superfluous; it's the im. It means both, with. Mm-hmm. Which in that sense, Abraham asked his Canaanite slave Eliezer to stay with the Hamor. In that midrashic exegesis, which is the Agadic way of midrashi, it's like some type of togetherness with similar category, which again it's hard. Mm-hmm. To comprehend. One of the people in the congregation, not long ago, took me to Baltimore. Mm-hmm. It was a place that they have some type of theatrical preparation for performance, and since that family is very involved, mm-hmm. So I said, fine, I went there. So they did the production, it's called The Weeping Man. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you heard about it, but The Weeping Man is a production that they show how the ancient American slave owners, speaking about 1780s, 1790s, it was a story of the three men and the Jewish slave owner, and how in a way he was different and he was the same as the general slave owners in those days, based on true story. They claim it became known now, mm-hmm. but you can click, you can see that. Mm-hmm. I just saw the rehearsal, but it's so fascinating. Mm-hmm. So the point is, it's relatively short. It's like 20 minutes I saw because there was probably a bigger production. Mm-hmm. But the point is, at least the mindset, even in American history in those days, the idea that slave owner and versus the slave, in a way, it's like a donkey. The slave, at least the ancient way of thinking, was the same. So back to our subject. So the mindset of those who felt like indifferent, if they have this cohabitation at the front of their slaves, it's appear because they treated them, they think about them in such a way. Shmuel, however, rejected the relevance of this exposition here, right? Because how do you compare a human, even a slave, to a donkey, right? So it's like human is in the image of Hashem, and therefore Shmuel, in a way, the way that Maharsha explains and others, he feels that it's offensive mm-hmm. to a person to engage in a relation to in their presence. If you look for a second on the Tosfot here deal a little indirect with all of that, and he said that in certain homes it's not visible to the slave to engage in intimacy, right? Because if the house is in dark, but in the light, so Tosfot hold that it's always prohibited. They bring a Gemara in the Darim. Not just that, even there is no slave there, just by prohibited during the day is prohibited. That's the Tosfot, and he used the word Vetama sheyesh lo liot tzanua bishat hashvish, and he brings a source from Gemara in the Darim. So now they're bringing a proof from Amoraim. As you remember, we talked earlier about the difference between Tanaim and Amoraim. Tanaim is the 1st and the 2nd century, and Amoraim is those who went deeper and deeper in understanding and bring a proof from their life or from their dig deeping with the subject to clarify the subject. So here is illustration. Rabba Barav Huna mekarkesh zagei dechilta. In other words, it was a bed, bed that they use, and he jingled the bell on the canopy. In those days, they have a bed, like you see it in the old England. There's a bed with canopy, most probably for against bugs and things like that. So he placed around the bed a bells, and he basically used that bells to tell the household or whoever's there to stay away for their privacy, which again, it shows a modesty. If you look at Rashi here, Rashi said, "Pa'amonim atluim bekila shesavim mitato, mekashkeshan be'et hashmish lasu bnei veto misham." It's more like a signal that he wish to have a private, and therefore people will leave. Tosfot not get along with that. Tosfot said that basically a Rashi grandson, Rabbeinu Tam, he said the ein ze miderech midat tzniut. It's not the proper modest way to do things. Rabbeinu Tam is a grandson of Rashi. It's written that he said that when Rashi wrote interpretation, he fasts 613 days again in exchange of times, which is show the greatness. Yet Rabbeinu Tam in some places disagree with his grandfather, like in Tefillin and others. So here he feels that it's vulgar to notify people that one is about to engage in relations. So he asserts the idea that Rabba Bar Avuna jingled with the bell when there is no people in the presence. It's just the idea that they just want to have all these mice and all these animals stay away. He used the word gazei zevuvim, dvash hagezin vatzririn. So it's all kind of bugs and bees and flies that are around. That's the reason he used this bell around the bed. Abaye balei didvei. Abaye will chase away flies. Rava baalei faruche, and Rava will chase away nads, which is all these small mosquitoes. So again, this is the like show the level of modesty very high in Amoraim's view, that even so they're so careful that anything observe their intimacy, even this small mosquito, they chase them away. That's the point. It just show high level of modesty. Since we talk about Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, so now Gemara deal with more hanhagot, more proper behavior of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. אמר רבי שמעון בן יוחאי, 5 דברים הן שהעושה אותם מתחייב בנפשו ודמו בראשו. It's a strong language. He said that these are 5 things that turn a person to a danger, and not just that, he create for himself, he liable to pay his life, to even get for himself a death. Or vedamo benafsho, that he should be indeed die, his blood will be upon his own head. It's a strong language. If you look at Rashi said here, נענש על עצמו וחובת דמו נדרשת ממנו לאחר מיתתו, which means by a person damaging his health in such a level, he is accountable for his own death, even after he's no longer among the living. It's like in the army they said that a soldier that commits suicide, they're going to take him to court. Why? Because he damaged the army's equipment. So the moment you have a number, you're part of the equipment. So in that sense, we believe that our body belongs to Hashem. Since it belongs to Hashem, we have no right to damage our body. So if a person treated his body poorly, and he caused himself death, since we believe in Hashra'at HaNefesh, in the afterlife, therefore his whole responsibility after his death for doing so. As here are the examples. Number one, האוכל שום כלוף ובצל כלוף וביצה כלופה. So there are two things we need to put a little disclaimer. All these medicine in the Talmud, examples in the Talmud, the rabbis tells us that we live in different era in a sense of medicine. So we should not take those medicine the same, because the vegetation is different, the medicine is different, the treatment is different. It's not a question only of development, it's a question of what exactly they meant. Sometimes it's esoteric meaning, sometimes it's a different formula. We are not at that time. However, we can take the mindset of damaging oneself. So in general, they speak about who eats a peeled garlic bulb. Again, you may say that the garlic has a different quality, or peel onion, or peel egg. Again, all these things are considered dangerous only if they were left overnight in their uphill state and eaten later. It's overnight. It's a lot of issue in the Talmud. The Magen Avraham said Norah Chaim that the verse thing mentioned in Gemara, the danger only in the Talmud time. Today's age is no longer. That's what we said earlier.
Yeah, I mean something like I know, for example, peeled garlic. If you don't leave it refrigerated, it can go
bitter.
bad very quickly.
Bitter.
Yeah. Oh, not only bitter, but bad for you. I mean, it can cause stomach problems if you eat
Rambam
it.
said in Sefer HaMadah
that
it's like he used a very strong language that like almost kill you.
Yeah, well, absolutely, because I remember actually seeing on a cooking show where they talked about the jars of garlic that you can buy, and they said if you leave that unrefrigerated, it's very dangerous.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's not all that.
Yes.
I mean, it's quite reasonable, actually. I mean,
yes.
and eggs the same way. I mean, if you leave eggs unrefrigerated after they're cooked.
Yes. So that's one of the things that they mention here. The idea of overnight. It's good to know that there's in other Gemarot, especially there's a Gemara in Brachot, that speaks about all kind of dangers, things that you don't see in your eyes, and you should not leave it overnight because of their attachment to that. So it's like the Gemara speaks about leaving water open without covering it overnight, etc. Anyway, that's the first category. Second, והשותה משכין מזוגין שעבר עליהם הלילה. Oh, you see, we just speak about someone who combine wine with the water, take a beverage and it stay overnight situation. So either it's because of all those mazikin, but if you see to this very day, the proper way is to cover them. Anything that left overnight open, it's a problem. Next one is והלן בבית הקברות. הלן בבית הקברות, one who sleep in a cemetery. In general, we said many times that visiting a cemetery, if it's a yahrzeit, it's nice, but the person should not visit cemetery as permanent. My Rabbein used to say that there are some students that go and visit cemeteries constantly. And the Rabbein was not happy with that. They said, you study their words, you study what they teach, that's what's count. Visiting graves, you can visit once a while, if it's urgent needs, etc. But the person should not make his business to be in a cemetery constantly, because in the language of the Rabbeim, it's like disturbing the resting in peace of those deceased. Furthermore, there is a Gemara in a different location that speaks about a person who ran away from his wife. I don't know if you remember that, and it was before Shoshana, and he heard all the two sisters, the spirits, they talk to each other about the upcoming year and how things will turn, etc., etc. It's a famous Gemara.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, we discourage people, if it's not necessary, to constantly visit there, and that go without saying that the person should not make his business to sleep in a cemetery. Next, it's all kind of mazikin, damage things. והנוטל ציפורנם וזורקן לרשות הרבים. So soon we explain what's the idea of taking the nails, the part in the nails and out and throw it to public. It's go a little bit mystic, but the idea that trimming his nails and cast them to a public area is not just a little bit vulgar, but there are other issues involved with that. And then va'makiz dam u'mshamesh mitato. Again, someone who's doing something very inappropriate. He just take away blood, so the person is weak, right? Mm-hmm. And after doing that, he engage in marital relation the same evening. Mm-hmm. In general, the instructions that the Gemara has in several places that a person should not do that after a meal or after tremendous amount of changes to the body, like after you ran fast and everything, or after a person come from long journey. In other words, they need to have some space and some peace in mind. And here, he just take away his blood. It's not right. So now the Gemara clarify the details of each of these 5 dangerous practices. Number 1, ha'ochel shum kaluf. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai said that one who eats a peeled garlic bulb, so it's dangerous, and it's not just that. The Gemara tells us it's applied also to onion and an egg. Ve'af al gav de manchei besilta, even though that the onion and the garlic and the egg, he puts them in a basket. U'metzayrei v'chatimei, which means that they are tied and sealed in a basket, so they don't expose to anything, they call it ruach ra'ah, to evil spirit, because they're unpeeled overnight. Anyway, you should not do it, because ruach ra'ah shora aleim. It's like they use the word evil spirit showing them. For sure, this is a little mystical, but the idea is that you shouldn't do that. Velo amaran, but they put it with clarification. They said all this idea apply only ela delo shiyer bahen ikaran o klipatan, which means he took away the roots and peeled the attach of them. That's the only way that Rashi said here, the hair-like strands that grow from the tip of the onion or the garlic bulb. So that's the
roots.
Roots, right. Aval shier bahen ikaran o klipatan, which is like the hair. Leitlan ba. So the rabbi says no objection. The Yavetze said even if it's only small part of the root or pure remains, it's dangerous, lifted. It's no chashash in this. Next, והשותה משקים מזוגים שעבר עליהן הלילה. So if someone, Rabbi Shimon go further and says one will drink a beverage that passed the night in a diluted state, which is considered dangerous, what does that mean? אמר רב יהודה אמר שמואל והוא שלנו בכלי מתכות. It's all apply when the beverage spend the night in the metal, in the metallic vessels, not just they want to clarify that. It's a small example. There are some kiddush cup that if it's made in the region of silver, after some times, if it's not constantly cleaned properly with the proper materials, etc., it carry a special unpleasant taste.
Well, yeah, the tarnish gives it a bad flavor.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So that's part of that. It's like almost dangerous because you're drinking something that is very unhealthy, to say the least. Amar Rav Papa said, Uchlei neter kichlei matachot damu. That vessels made of natron, which is naturally occurring from the sodium carbonate, which is used to do all kind of ceramic things in those days. So all of that, it's very similar to metal. Here they use the word. One of the Meforshim said, "Kelim asuim me'adama shechofrim mimena tzarif." It's a Gemara in Avodah Zarah, Lamed Gimel 33, that speaks about using it as a like white earth. That it's using it for all kind of things. If you drink it, it's not healthy. וכן אמר רבי יוחנן, והוא שלנו בכלי מתכות. וכלי נטר ככלי מתכות דמו. Right? Because it's some dangers. It's like you carry an extra taste that it's dangerous. It's almost hazard to a person. Next one. Number 3, we said, Vehalan beveit hakvarot. We said that one who sleeps in a cemetery, it's dangerous. Why? כדי שתשרה עליו רוח טומאה, דזימנין דמסכנין ליה. So if you remember, we talked the other day about King Saul, that when he was in a state of melancholy, he went to that lady and he called upon Shmuel and all of that things. The soul of the deceased is something that we're not allowed to engage with these type of things. But here, it's not just that, it's go further, the way that Meforshim said here, Rashi here, it's deep Rashi, he said, Umitchayev benafsho. Rashi here, they use the word klomar. We explained that klomar and Rashi carry a meaning. I think I told you I wrote a book about it. The explanation of klomar, biurea klomar berashi al-Shas. Took me about 14 years. It's a series of books. And try to explain every time Rashi used the word klomar, the meaning of that. But here, Rashi said, Hu gorem le'atzmo, which means it's a little deeper. The idea that the person go on purpose. It's not just like the Gemara said that he went to a cemetery and he hiding from his wife, running away from spirit. Here he did it on purpose. What is his goal? He wants to have the spirit of impurity rest upon him, and he learned all kind of sorcery which the Torah prohibited, and he used to be like those charlatans. He wants to use it, so sometimes these spirits lead him to know things in a clairvoyant way, in a dangerous way. But there is another side that if it really happened to a person who became a medium, who knows things, it's also they create damage for him. It's the other side, like Bilam. So this is something that we strongly oppose. Because let's think, if it's meaningless, why bother? If it's serious, there is damage involved in this.
Makes sense.
The other side. והנוטל ציפורניו וזורקיו לרשות הרבים. Someone who trim his nail and cast them to a public area has performed a dangerous act. So you can say, obviously, this is a simple idea because, it's inappropriate. Why are you doing it? But let's go deeper in the said, מפני שאישה מעוברת עוברת עליהם ומפלת. So a pregnant woman may walk over them and miscarry as a result. So what does that mean? So it's a Gemara said in Moed Katan that if it's just one time happen unintentionally is one thing, but in general to do it such a thing it's a dangerous. Now again, here we're dealing a little bit mystical.
Right.
So what's the idea? Why she passed, and what's the relate to that, and what's involved with the nails, and this the spark of souls, and all kind of things we don't deal at this point. But it's the whole idea that it's something that we shouldn't do. But the Gemara, even though medayeket, they go to deeper meaning in a sense.
Because does Kabbalah deal with shorn hair in a similar way as cut nails? Like, I mean, do they consider cut hair the same similarly or not?
Okay, so there is two books in Kabbalah dealing with this type of things. There is a book called by a great sage of the 16th century, the Rekanati, and it's another several books in that times, like Reb Chaim Vital wrote a book, or Moshe Cordovero wrote Pardes Munim, and in those books there is a lot of things in our language, in magic Kabbalah, and all kind of things that they are so high to know the meaning of certain things in such a level. It was a great rabbi by the name of Abu Lafia, in the 11th century, who not only knew the numbers and combinations, but he knew also much deeper the meaning of every act and every actions. We are not engaging with that. Ein lanu esek banistarot. We don't delve with this in the meaning, and
I mean, the only reason I ask is because those are the only two things really that we essentially cut off of our bodies, or is hair and nails.
Yes,
I
but
mean,
the Torah gives us a very clear instructions how
Yeah.
to cut the hair properly and what measurement cutting hair. Just let's finish this, and it said, Velo Amaran, the Gemara Medayeke, the Gemara go deeper and speaks about cutting the nails, and they said the whole idea of doing dangerous by cutting the nails, Velo Amaran ela de shakid big nus terei, that when he did while using a scissor, okay, but Velo Amaran ela de shakil de yadei ude karei. So the same way as cutting the nails with scissors, he said this is harmful only when he removes these nails with scissors and he removes them with the mouth. So it's not dangerous, right? And then like that. But likewise, we said that this is harmful only when he removed the nail, both his hands and his feet. But if you remove only fingernail and toenails, there is no danger. So again, that's the source. You see it in some Shulchan Aruch Harav deals with that, and other great rabbis deals that we should not take both the feet and the hands, the nails, the same day. The proper way the halakha tells us is to do it in a separate day. Not just that, they tell us that the proper way is to go not in a subsequent order, which means that from the second finger to the fourth finger, and then the first, the third, and the fifth, not in a subsequent order in the hands. It's Bet, Dalet, Aleph, Gimel, Hey, etc. There is a certain way which we'll discuss a different time. Let's just finish it. Velo amaran lo gaz midi batrayu. And also we say that this is harmful only when it does not cut anything else off after cutting the nail. Aval gaz midi batrayu, but if we cut something else after them, late lamba. And then there is another elaboration of that, and they said velohi, but in fact this is not so. Lekula milta chayshinan. We are concerned to harm may occur under old circumstances. Now the next sugya, which we'll do next session, is dealing with the continuation of all these dangerous things that the person should not do in order not to harm himself. Thank you.